What if the ringing in your ears isn't actually starting in your ears? Most people spend years trying to silence the sound they hear, using supplements, medications, hearing devices, or home remedies, yet the ringing never truly goes away. That's because many people focus only on the symptom instead of asking where the signal is really coming from. What if the ringing has actually been your brain's way of sending you an important warning all along? Today, we're going to explore why persistent ringing in the ears after age 60 may have far less to do with your hearing than you might think. More importantly, you'll learn about simple daily habits that may help support healthy communication between your brain and your hearing system. Stay with me until the end, because one common morning routine many older adults do before breakfast may quietly make the ringing worse without them even realizing it. A few years ago, I met a retired school principal named Margaret. She was 72 years old and cherished peaceful mornings more than anything else. Every day, she would sit on her front porch with a warm cup of tea, listening to birds sing as the sun slowly rose. Those quiet moments had always been her favorite part of the day, until one unexpected morning changed everything. That morning, Margaret noticed something unusual. It wasn't loud or painful, just a soft, faint whistle that seemed to come from nowhere. At first, she assumed it would disappear after a few hours, just like many temporary sounds do. But the next day it was still there. Then another day passed, and the strange sound refused to leave. Weeks slowly turned into months, and months eventually became years. The faint whistle followed Margaret everywhere she went. It interrupted conversations with friends, distracted her while reading books she loved, and made falling asleep more difficult every single night. Even her family assumed it was simply another normal part of getting older, but Margaret wasn't convinced. She kept asking herself the same question over and over again. Why does nobody else hear this? That simple question led her to discover something surprising. Sometimes the real problem isn't that the ears are hearing too much. Instead, the brain may actually be trying to compensate for signals it isn't receiving clearly from the hearing system. I'm Dr. Michael Carter, and for more than 20 years I've worked with older adults experiencing age-related hearing changes and neurological health concerns. One of the biggest misconceptions I encounter is the belief that tinnitus always begins inside the ear. In reality, hearing depends on far more than your ears alone. Your ears, auditory nerves, blood vessels, and brain all work together as one connected system. When any part of that communication network becomes weaker, the brain doesn't simply ignore the missing information. Instead, it often tries to compensate by creating signals of its own. Those signals can sometimes be experienced as sounds that don't actually exist in the outside world. Imagine your home's internet connection. When the signal is strong, everything streams smoothly without interruption. But when the signal weakens, your devices constantly struggle to reconnect, searching for information that isn't arriving properly. Surprisingly, your hearing system behaves in a very similar way, especially as you grow older. Deep inside the inner ear are tiny sensory cells that convert sound into electrical signals. These signals travel through the auditory nerve until they reach the brain, where they're interpreted as meaningful sounds. But if those messages become weaker because of aging, poor circulation, years of loud noise exposure, or certain nutritional deficiencies, the brain notices the missing information. Rather than staying silent, the brain may respond by increasing its own sensitivity, almost like turning up the volume on a weak radio station in an effort to hear more clearly. That extra sensitivity can sometimes be experienced as ringing, buzzing, humming, or hissing. Scientists are still studying exactly why this happens, but many experts believe tinnitus involves both the ears and the brain working together, not just one or the other. At the same time, it's important to keep everything in perspective. Not every case of tinnitus is caused by aging, nutrition, or circulation alone. Ringing in the ears can also be associated with hearing loss, certain medications, infections, jaw disorders, or other medical conditions. That's why persistent or sudden tinnitus should always be evaluated by a healthcare professional, especially if it affects only one ear, occurs with dizziness, or develops suddenly.